The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Hey guys, good morning.
Good morning, man.
Jim, buddy, as always.
What's up?
How y'all feeling today?
Feeling riled up.
Yeah, I can hear.
Watching the Zcash pump. Yeah, I'm good. Shitty weather here though. Summer has unofficially ended here in New York. We've had an extended summer up until about 3 days ago, and now we've transitioned into full-on fall. Just in time for my daughter's christening, which is bad timing, but yeah, we'll make the best of it.
I barely even know what summer means or is anymore. I mean, we have a slightly bit of a winter here in central Mexico. It gives way into a quote unquote summer, and then from about June until now, I mean, it's been cloudy and rainy and about 80 degrees for months and months and months, and the clouds will clear up here in a few months, but we'll still stay like 70 to 80 degrees every day until maybe January hits, and it gets a little bit cold.
So you're exiting the rainy season.
I hope not. We got out of the El Nino. The El Nino was a really big. We actually had a real summer a few years ago because of that little brat El Nino was causing problems. But we are supposed to be exiting the rainy season, but sometimes it sticks around.
So it's cloudy for how long? Like percentage of year?
Oh, let me see. June, July, August, September. Probably about 4 months of pretty consistent cloud cover.
And it's like the sun doesn't pop out at all. It's like
maybe once every. I mean, you'll see the sun poke its head out here and there, but by and large, it's cloudy for. I mean, it's not like overcast cloudy. It's different types of cloudy, kind of a tropical version of cloudy, if you will.
You still get the vitamin D if you're out there hanging out, right?
Yeah, especially if you're out there in midday, you can still get sunburn even with the clouds.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's a lot better than New York. I mean, obviously our summers are pretty good, but they're really short. They're really short, and then it's winter for quite some time.
Honestly, man, it's the biggest reason why I just I don't know if I'll ever leave this part of the world.
Yeah, quality of life. You can't beat that.
I mean, there's a few things I miss from living in the States, my roads in particular. But, we don't have, the cops don't give you speeding tickets here like they do in the States.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences, I'd say.
The problem is they don't need to. The roads aren't exactly, they're not much to be admired. Once you get on if you can get on the quota or on the toll roads here in between cities, you can basically go as fast as you want, almost as fast as the mountains will let you go. But apart from
that.
So what?
I need that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Bodies of Speedster. Tux. All right, man. Yeah, I guess take it away. I don't know if you wanna give us your Zcash take before you get into it, but I'm sure you'll give it as you go.
This is the Zcash cope sesh.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess it's all been covered. Some people are kind of revealing who they are. I think we just need to we need to accept that it might not be the case. It could just be a pump and dump. That's what the cabal tends to do. But, they've pulled out every other trick that they can for Monero, right? They removed it from their federal publications back in 2019, 2020. They stopped mentioning it. They pretended it didn't exist. That way, the ignore it phase is well over. They did the silent site price suppression. We astutely revealed that, proved it. And now it's the attacky phase. And I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, you guys have said it all right. just go figure. Cubic happens, and they get this massive bot army. Cubic has disappeared. I don't see anything Cubic on Twitter. Zero now. I see twice as much Zcash stuff now as I previously saw Cubic, and it's just bot, bot, bot. I wanted to remind everyone, guys, report and block these bots. Like, if we do this in mass, it's gonna hurt them at least a little bit.
Good point. That's a good point.
I don't want to say it on Twitter, because then they're gonna start doing it to our genuine people, and we're gonna get like Aaliyah got banned, not banned, but like shadow
Yeah,
banned.
what's up with that? And then another guy too, another Monero account, got soft like banned or whatever you call it as well. For
How do you even
nothing.
know? Like, I am I soft banned? I mean,
No,
No,
you
I
open their
know.
profile and it says that this user has been
Oh.
like temporarily like restricted or something for their
Oh.
profile or something like that. Like if I open up Aaliyah's profile, it says caution, this account is temporarily restricted, and you have to click yes, view profile.
the fuck?
Yeah, for like absolutely nothing. I can't
No.
possibly think of something Ilea that would post that would violate any. I mean, Ilea obviously is very much a Monero agorist account, cypherpunk account, but I can't think of anything that would have actually like violated their obscure vague terms or whatever.
No, like, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of us are very, let's just say, abrasive in certain ways, and Aaliyah is not.
Yeah, she's
Not
not in any
abrasive
way
at all.
Yeah.
She's just like, I like the coin, and she
Yeah.
actually does real development for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, very weird. Yeah, we got the
Wow.
bots out there. Just report and block them, as much as you can. They're so obvious. Like,
Bodie, I mean, I'm sure you'll get into this too, but I was trying to make the point to, like, this idea, if you want to try to ride the Zcash wave, hedge a little bit with the hope of moving back into Monero and gaining some more Monero, probably pretty risky to do it at this point, right?
it depends on what it may or may not be, right? Like, it depends on what your model of the situation it looks like, because it's possible that this could last for a long period of time, right? Because they're bringing out the real attack stuff against Monero, and they would much rather you focus and people focus into Zcash. I honestly question how much of this is actually, like, any of it is organic. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of we see a lot of influencers that are paid off. I think more often the case is that people give anonymous donations and have been giving anonymous donations in Zcash. Hey, I noticed you don't have a Zcash address. I really appreciate your work, man. I've learned a lot. I want to support your podcast, right? And then, but I have Zcash and I want to stay anonymous, right? And oh yeah, okay, I'll make a wallet here, and then they start sending them money, right? They're not on they're quote unquote not on the payroll. They're not being paid off. They're not sponsored. They can claim with a clear conscience, I'm not sponsored. I take donations from all sorts of cryptocurrencies, right? Like,
Right.
it's like self-deception kind of thing. But I mean, I'm guessing. I'm making a lot of inference there, guys, but that's what I think is very likely happening with some of these influencers. Obviously just fucking paid off 500,000 people, right? And they're out there shilling Zcash, and then they launch into Charlie Kirk immediately. Like, I don't want to
that one, we got to play that actually on
please
that.
don't.
Who is that guy? That guy's he's like represents like the worst of crypto. He's like, I got this coin to pump today. I remember I feel like he got popular when the Trump coin dropped. That was like the first time I saw him out there, like really, like he was shilling Trump coin. And now he's shilling Zcash.
They pre-position and seed these accounts for years. They do that. They have every like tool in their toolbox, right? They're like Jerome Powell. They've got tools all over the place. And they find people that are useful idiots. They find people that are willing to be bought. They pre-position accounts, that sit there for a long period of time, and then they rise up at some period, some perfect moment. So yeah, but we just have to anticipate this could last longer than we think it might. Maybe it doesn't, but it could. And that could be their way to try to do their best. And it's probably they have to pay to do it. It's just like Cubic. They lost money reorganizing the chain. They lost money attacking the chain, but it might be an investment for them because they need you to buy their shit coins and not Monero.
Well, it looks like their investment's paying off though, right? With the pump, so it's not like
No, this is not a real pump. This didn't pump because a bunch of people organically got into Zcash. It pumped because they made it pump. Like, that's just how these things work. Bitcoin has no business being above $100,000, but it's going to stay there because they're really good at managing prices of things. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people own Bitcoin, right? It's not that it shouldn't have a high price at all. I'm not saying that. It should still have a high price, but it shouldn't be above 100,000. That's a fraudulent price, and Bitcoin's price is not entirely, but a large component of Bitcoin's price is based on fraud, just like all of the other cryptocurrencies. And Monero's price is also based on fraud to the reverse direction. I know from an outsider perspective that can sound like cope, but it's not. It's just the facts of cryptocurrency. We've seen over and over and over again over the years. It's been proven ad nauseum that crypto prices are fraudulent. Nothing about what happens on these exchanges resembles an organic, rational, or fair market.
All right, I'll let you take it away.
With that, we had a big price drop on Friday. It was what happened is Trump came out and he talked about doing some tariffs, and he's gonna, I don't know, something about Xi and China, always China. And so the markets tanked in the afternoon. Monero's version of that was about 23% to the downside. Whatever, we're used to that kind of stuff. It's no big deal. I have currently recovered a little bit. I guess we're about, maybe that's 11% down. Yeah, about 11% down. Overall, nothing important was broken, at least for Monero. And I don't think for crypto either. Nothing important was really broken. We really just got into these lower standard deviations, and even better, what you can see happens here is beautiful, right? We had, and this is a long chart, months long chart. We had the big breakout from the hack, which I am very suspicious of the nature of whatever that was. Hell, I might as well just, what we have until about 12. Oh, we got plenty of time. Wait, does Tony need to get on and do the news before the guest comes on? Probably, so I shouldn't go too long. Okay, so yeah, what happened here, I really, really do ask myself, especially in light of everything that's happening, with Cubic and Zcash and the whole fabric of bullshit that's going on, especially, lately. We had Monero. They suppress. Let's go to the daily. They suppress, and we finally, we're generating slow adoption, consistent, steady adoption to the point that, hey, it's getting harder and harder for them to keep the price from breaking out. We get this kind of pattern in the price that reveals, sorry, man, I'm off today. We get this pattern in the price that reveals those dynamics. And then we say, hey, this thing is, the worst that can happen is this wick down here on the macro crash that comes right back. No, it's time. The thing is going to break out. It's just time, right? And then what happens? Oh my God, the only hackers and drug dealers use Monero. And that was some quote unquote hack happened. And then things went to the top side. For all we know, this guy was a genuine sell. For all we know, they were just waiting for someone to genuinely sell their coin. They might have even been waiting for the right person that sold their coin onto Coinbase or whoever, and then gave them an address that was unknown and then made it look like a hack, right? We don't know. Again, all we can do sometimes, most of the time with these corporate assholes, is just speculate on what they're doing. But the fact that this pump up here was because of a hack, that I was always kind of suspicious of that. And I'm even more suspicious of it now. This was going to happen no matter what. Something was going to drive that because of the evidence that the price chart was showing us, right? This is just the evidence of the dynamics of what's happening, especially a coin like Monero that's so suppressed and actually has to gain price via real organic adoption and usage. So anyways, coming back to the shorter term here, this is actually still just fine on our price action. So we had a big pump up, and then things sort of come back down here to the lower standard deviation levels. And then on the shorter time frame, same thing happens, right? We sort of create these shorter, and then we get a wick down on, again, a macro crashy kind of vibes with the trade, the tariffs coming back, which is what caused the macro crash, the mini crash, whatever, back in April, right? It was the tariffs, the tariffs showing up and then causing that problem, whatever. And then so once again we have this wick down here into exactly kind of a level you might expect. You would rather to have this stop right there, but okay, whatever. We're currently at that level. This is the 4-hour chart anyway, so the daily chart really truly is some kind of close right around here. If we come back to the top side and continue doing this, there's a very high probability of breakout. So nothing looks terrible with the Monero chart right now. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are just continuing to hodl, to use the stupid degenerate phrase. I pointed this out a few weeks ago that we're kind of looking at this potential inverse head and shoulders on the Monero versus Bitcoin chart. And I said, hey, what we really want to see is this thing to come back, towards the top side somewhat for us to say that, hey, this actually could be a right shoulder. I'm not, again, when it comes to these like cute, anecdotally little named patterns, I don't know how much how much credence I put on them. We had a very very large, beautiful head and shoulders on the Monero dominance like a year or two ago that absolutely did not play out. So I'm not super convinced about the head and shoulders here being something that's going to really truly play out. If it does, it probably is going to take some time for this thing to truly to really play out. It'll probably take to the end of the quote unquote bull market, maybe, and maybe it won't start really happening until things start really going down. There'll be a lot of volatility involved, even if that happens. One of the things that I would just point out here is that our little macro crash didn't really do anything to the ratio. So that's actually pretty interesting that Monero versus Bitcoin, that the ratio was actually just fine. So that's cool. We don't actually see anything here on the divergences. Nothing really has like shown up in terms of exchanges pushing the price down. In fact, if anything, they're all offering slightly more, a slightly higher price for Monero than Kraken is doing right now. Not by much, right? We're talking like 0.5%. Hypothetically, if you could actually withdraw Monero from these exchanges, maybe actually no, the other way around. You could, at these levels here, when you're looking at a percent divergence, you could buy off of Kraken and then sell onto these exchanges. You need a lot to be able to make that actually profitable, right? Like, because if you're talking about 1%, and that's at best, right? You're getting at best 1%, and you usually get charged like 0.25%, at best, right? I think Kraken charges 0.25%. That's a pretty standard number to be charged for trades. So if you were to get charged 0.25%, on both sides, that means you're only getting 0.5% profit there. So I mean, what if you move $100,000? What are you going to get? Like, you're going to get like $5,000 profit there, right? That's just not very much. No, wait, 500. Sorry, you get $500 of profit off of $100,000 movement, like, and you got to take the risk to. Nah, that's just not worth it. Like, so that's probably it's another reason why they can get away with this, because it's. Then again, hypothetically, if you want to, if the Monero army wants to do their part and everybody takes part in this, I guess that's something we could do, but. It just seems, I don't know, it doesn't really seem worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze in that case. Let's see. Monero dominance. Is this also a head and shoulders? Is this also another head and shoulders? Looks like it. But we've seen this before, so I'm not going to put too much credence into that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the privacy altcoins. All right, let's look at Cubic, I guess, because they're kind of important. They're not really a privacy coin, but I guess they're just here for just because. Like, where else am I going to put them? Yeah, so they had their macro crash too. They came into the lower standard deviation. If Cubic does this, that will be the end. We won't see. That'll be a sign that they're done with their Cubic attack or whatever, and which is kind of good. Then it gives us the leisure of just taking our time to figure out what is the best countermeasure to make sure this doesn't happen again. But yeah, Cubic's price going down will spell the inability of them to bribe miners for successful selfish mining attacks. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. This could very easily be their temporary bottom, especially if this was just a stupid. Guys, with the fraud, we'll get this in the macro, I guess, but with the fraud happening since the Trump admin, the extra special mucho fraud happening overall that wasn't happening with Biden, in markets, this whole tariff thing that they did on Friday could have just been a way to an excuse for liquidation wipeouts in the bull market. That's they do this. It happens. They see a lopsided long market and they say, all right, now is the time to completely destroy people's positions, sometimes lives. People actually do terrible things when stuff like this happens. Whatever. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not saying that Cubic is going to go down. All I'm saying is that it could, right? This is not looking like the best price action. Realistically, what this chart shows you is constraining volatility, right? So from a more probabilistic technical tea leaves perspective, you would look at this chart and say, yeah, expect this thing to kind of do, something like that, and then make some kind of movement. So we're probably still looking at a few months of this chart continuing to occupy this zone right there, which is enough for them to cause problems. They don't seem as dedicated as they used to be to causing problems. They'll start selfish mining for a little bit and then they'll stop, and the reorgs are not very long anymore. So we all obviously we would love to see this chart start breaking down. That would be great. That would be the end of the cubic episode, and then we'll have to deal with the with the Zcash episode. There's not. I don't think there's anything we can do about this, guys. I don't think that there's any amount of, and sorry to push back against. I'll just give you an alternative opinion to what Doug articulated earlier. I 100% support anyone that wants to go out there and do Monero promotion in the corporate world and with the regulators and all that stuff. Like if you think that's going to make a difference, then sure enough, go ahead and do that. Like there are still some honest people in those positions, and maybe you can turn a few ears. But I don't think the primary mechanism there is a fear of Monero. I think it's a dedicated push by corporate interests that will never, unless we intend to make our coin ASIC mineable under, I don't know, let's just say it's Equihash. Let's roll Monero under the 70% pool of Zcash, and merge mine with Zcash and then pay off the suits. And then maybe we'll get some pump, right? Then maybe we'll get some support, but we won't. That's the thing, we won't, because if we pay them off, they're just going to sell the price down ultimately. Like Zcash's price is fucking horrible. Like it had this, right? So here's the Monero versus Zcash. It had their big pump more than they've ever had before. They have their lie of a narrative. But like, no, like they don't have the financial interest to do it. So it doesn't even, like, these people are completely amoral. They're amoral to immoral, but they're definitely not moral. They don't have any interest in like doing the right thing. You have to incentivize them, and the only incentive that they would listen to at this point is money. So we have to pay them off, and if we pay them off, that'll hurt our price because they're going to sell. So like there's no way out of this. The only way, quote unquote, way out of this is just adoption, natural organic usage and adoption, which we have. Like there's our price is made up of real people that buy and hodl for value storage and usage, in many contexts, not just dark webs, although that is one important use case. So I don't think there's anything that we can do in the terms of the corporate world. The suits have their Zcash coin. Let's see, here we go. Here's the actual Zcash price. The suits have their coin. And look at this. The fact that Zcash is like doesn't even show, but by now doesn't even show that there was a macro crash. Like, no, that's not. Bitcoin is still down, right? This is not real, right? Zcash, and I saw it actually happening in real time yesterday, where things came down and then they slowly they bumped their price up, and it's fraudulent. It is fake. It is fraudulent. This price is not real. I think everybody here knows that. But yeah, there's no convincing the suits to not be interested in the coin that they 25% dev tax, 70% ASIC mine, with one single fucking pool. It's 100% ASIC mine, because all these ASICs, practically all of them, are owned by these ASIC companies and by their fucking shells, their AstroTurfs, right? It's all Bitmain, right? It's 80% of Bitcoin is mined by Bitmain block templates. So it's like, it's all Bitmain. It's fake. It's decentralization theater. And if Bitcoin is decentralization theater, then please, Zcash, no, just not a chance.
I saw one of the wicks touched 140 on Kraken, so it almost cut the half in price during the event yesterday.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. They lost like 44%, 44% of their price yesterday from top to bottom, which is that's quite a wick to make.
Now, Monero took a bit of a dive too, just like everything else, but to the degree was much less severe than, like, dude, Litecoin on Kraken hit 56. Ridiculous. Hit $56. Absolutely insane.
Actually, I want to see that.
Just cascading
God.
stop losses, and then probably cross margin being used, which were liquidating people's spot positions as well.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's really bad. Yeah. And the thing is, like, Zcash should follow that. Let's actually take a look here and see. You know what we could do to look at the overall picture instead of Zcash versus Monero? Let's look at Zcash.d. just going to be the Zcash dominance. They only just started. All right, so this is another suspicious thing I would look at and say, only as of the past, since October, did they start reporting Zcash dominance. Who got with CryptoCap to decide to start reporting Zcash? That, like, these kinds of decisions.
Dude, this narrative is so forced. I keep seeing some of these people start talking about how Zcash is going to replace Bitcoin. It's like, how many times has this happened and how many times has this failed? This has happened so many times where it's like, oh, BSV, BCH, they're going to replace Bitcoin, and they end up just sort of being pump and dumps.
Yeah, so you can see here even. So what I did is I took Zcash USD divided by total 3. So total 3 being all of the market cap except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And yeah, you can see it looks like nothing even happened. The Zcash has somehow come out on top of this of the macro crash. It's like it didn't even happen for them, which is kind of another reason I'm saying, like, don't expect this to go away, guys. Like, this thing could continue going on. I'm not going to bet on it, right? I'm not going to put any money on this because I'm not going to help them do it. I'm not even predicting that it will go on. I'm just saying that it could. Like other times that Zcash has pumped relative to Monero, I've always been like, yeah, that's going to return to some kind of normalcy. But I do think it's possible this could continue on for longer than we would prefer, and we would think. They're going to try and, because again, they need to be able to manufacture something. They need to be able to manufacture attention away from Monero. Hey, and as far as I'm concerned, if optional privacy into a ZK snark, if optional ZK snarks is the magic ticket, then I'll take Ethereum Tornado Cash every fucking day. 1,000 times X, I'll take Ethereum with Tornado Cash because like Ethereum actually has other useful things. Like, don't tell me you've never used a stablecoin out there, boys, except for Shortwave. He gets a pass. I know he's never used a stablecoin. Everybody else out there, I know y'all have used a stablecoin at least once in your life, which means you've used an Ethereum, an EVM platform. Or a Solana at that, now they've got Solana.
Tron is very popular with USDT now.
Massively popular in other parts of the world. So yeah, like, and then Ethereum's got the gold tokens, right? If you want a gold exposure without having to like go through the dick dance of some like bullion vault exchange, whatever, and then paying the friction there. You just get into a gold token or a silver token. I think they have those too now. And all kinds of stuff, right? Like there's just, and all sorts of things that you can use Ethereum for. Not that not this is the Ethereum shilling show, but why would I take a ZK snark with optional privacy that does nothing else other than money, which isn't even really good money, because it's like if the banks at least own the money. The Federal Reserve doesn't own the money, but like if the Federal Reserve owned all the money, it would be even worse. That's Zcash. So like I'll just take Ethereum. Like, why would I use Zcash? But they can spend them. Here's what gives me comfort. It costs them money to do this, right? To do this with Zcash costs them money. This is not a free thing. They had to pay off influencers to do this, just like they had to pay to bribe miners with Cubic to attack Monero. Same thing with Zcash. They have to pay influencers to get the price to do this. They have to give anonymous donations, because I love and support your work in Zcash, to people, to useful idiots. And yes, they are idiots. You can see it in their idiot little faces. Enough of that. They're probably listening right now and they're probably seething with anger. Get smarter, bros. Like, stop selling out. Fuck's sake. All right. Pirate Chain also doing pretty well. Pirate Chain this is interesting, guys. Pirate Chain seems to have this dynamic as well, where they had the wick and now they're already above where they previously were. It's like the macro crash didn't happen at all for them, despite the rest of crypto still being significantly down, right? So if the narrative was that privacy is so in vogue and everybody loves the privacy now, Monero would already be at 500, right? We would also have the same wick. It tells you that there's a divergent, because again, Monero is the highest market cap privacy coin, which is a retarded phrase. It's just money, and which in privacy is one of the things money has to be. But you all know that. If that was really the case, that this was the privacy narrative was holding up the price of Zcash so much, then it would also be showing for Monero. The fact that it's not tells you that it's a lie, right? It tells you that this action is a lie. But we already know that, right? It's just like everything you look at, every fucking little tiny thing that we look at, it says, hey, this is a bullshit. Here's a bot. This is a bot. In fact, it's a fabric of bots on Twitter that appeared out of nowhere. It's twice the amount of bots of Cubic now. And we have all these people that like these big influencer names, and then we look at the price, and nothing about the price makes sense either, whether in terms were relative to Bitcoin or relative to Monero, relative to other privacy coins. Like, nothing about it. Every fucking thing that we look at makes this look like fake generated bullshit. So that's just how it goes. I know I'm animated about all that, but that's just the reality, right? Like, that's the reality we're dealing with. So, and I don't think that any amount of talking to the regulators and making friends with the suits is going to do anything unless we want to pay them off. And then, like, I know that's a slight bit of a counter idea, but there's other things we can do. What do we need? We need a web wallet, guys. We need someone out there, please, for fuck's sake, make a web wallet. Make an integrated web wallet, Firefox, like MetaMask, but Monero Mask. That would actually work pretty good. Call it Monero Mask. And make it a Firefox extension, right? We need that in a bad way. We need an app for RetaSwap, and we also need a website for RetaSwap. You can just get on, just like you could with XMR, with like local Monero. We need that you don't have to download an app. You don't have to verify the software and check the signature. You just go to a web page and boom, it works, right? That's what we need. Somebody out there, please make that. If you are capable, even if you're not capable, give it a try. If you're into coding and you have some skills, give it a try. Think architecturally, right? We won't get into that. We won't go off. All right, Bitcoin, as you can see, has come down here. This is actually still like, there's nothing wrong. Like the price is still fine. Like nothing has broken here. This is just like, this is just a Friday afternoon, right? In crypto, that's what, minus 13%. Please, nothing to be worried about here. I think this is largely the entire we'll talk more about this macro crash here. This was just a liquidation wick, guys. Like everything's still fine. Like, I don't know, we'll just draw some lines just because we could do this here. Maybe we can connect that. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. At some point, this line will probably break. And when this line breaks, I'm going to have to consider that to be, and I'm doing this willy-nilly, right? I have not examined this. I just saw this right now. Yeah, we could probably draw this line maybe somewhere around like that. When this line breaks, guys, that's going to be the final push into the blow off top. Whenever this breaks, I don't know. Could be, could be some period of time, right? Doot, and then that will be the top somewhere when that happens. So that, I don't know. That's take that for what it's worth. It's just kind of like a little bit of speculation there. We'll leave that line. Let me save this chart. Hopefully it saves. Yeah, but Bitcoin is fine. Everything's fine. Let's take a look at the dominance, right? Bitcoin spiked up on the dominance. Everyone moves into Bitcoin when the fear happens. So it went up there. If we see everything get back to normal rapidly next week, then you'll know that it's time for big gains to be coming in. You could actually go long. Like you could actually take a leverage long at that point because they've already wiped out the wicks. They've already wiped out the leverage. They've wiped out the margin. They've taken their cut. Even though they print the money, they need more always. It's fucking greedy. But yeah, if everything comes back to normal, by let's say Tuesday of next week, it's time to get big long, right? You can make a lot of money getting big long doing that. And you'll see a real, another big push move in the altcoin direction. Let's take a look. We're looking at total 3 here. Yeah, total 3 still looks fine. Come on, chart. Very slow. Had a big wick down. It's still a higher low. Yeah, still a higher low. Everything's fine here. That's total 3. Let's take a look at total. I'm sure it also looks fine. Yeah, this chart still looks bullish. As a trader, as an analyst, you would look at this wick and you just be like, you would laugh, hopefully, unless you got wiped out, right? Like, this is why I caution you guys against margin trading. Like, listen, in a lot of ways, there is a certain wisdom to saying my liquidation price is my stop loss, and then only putting your positions at isolated margin and only putting your positions small. And then do the calculation correctly. Say, hey, where do I actually want my stop loss to be? And then make that your liquidation point. Because I've seen people out there that were like, hey, I had my stop loss in and it happened so fast that my stop loss never triggered and I got wiped out. And so if you're trading with 50% of your stack or 90% of your stack and you think you're safe because you have stop losses, you're not. Everyone knows that here, exchanges, whatever. But some of you might trade margin. So just know that your stop loss is not necessarily safe. It's not going to keep you safe in these tail risk events. So yeah, just trade carefully and make sure that your liquidation point is something that you're willing to sustain, even if you're using stop losses. Let's see, altcoins. Anyone? BNB? Fucking Binance. I guess we're doing pretty good too. We're at the top. We dropped less than everyone else relative to our own price action. And that's unsurprising. Monero tends to do well in these stupid crashes, and we're going to continue to do well in these stupid crashes. Just, I mean, better relatively, right? FTT dropping the most. Okay. Nothing interesting there otherwise. Ethereum, I guess, I don't know, still gonna need some time, whatever. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin versus the stock market. I guess it fared about equally as well as the stock market did. Let's take a look at the stock market. Let's go into the macro here. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ actually fell out of their channels. This is actually, like, I know that this looks bad because of the way I have these lines drawn, but if you just, well, let's just do this. Can we get rid of those? Yeah. If you look at it just from this perspective, just the wave magic perspective, this is totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong here. You're just still writing up these bands. Yes, you know, you got this little guy right there, but, and maybe it'll continue on Monday, right? Maybe there'll be another wipeout. Maybe everyone's thinking here, okay, that was the wipeout. It's just bullshit time to get long, and maybe they need to liquidate everyone again, right? That could happen. I don't think this is the end. And the reason is that the rest of the macro looks fine. Like, gold continues to go up. Let's take a look at bonds. Bonds didn't do jack shit. Bonds are not telling us that anyone with real money, the institutions are not scared, because if they were, bonds would be cratering right now. You would see the yield on bonds dropping, because here's what happens. Everyone flees to the safety of bonds, right? The guaranteed government bonds, right? Zero risk. Except for like nuclear war or something, right? Or comet. Everyone flees into the safety of bonds, and then the bond market, when you buy a bond at a certain rate and you see all this influx of demand, then the people selling those bonds are like, hey, I don't want to give you a good rate anymore. I have demand. I'm going to lower my rates. And I don't have to pay you as much money on that interest rate. And so the interest rates drop as people buy bonds, right? So as bonds become more valuable, as people buy bonds, the interest rates fall. So that didn't happen. What does that tell you? No one's buying fucking bonds, right? No one is here buying bonds. So if they're not buying bonds and the stock market is going down, where's that money going? Doesn't go to money heaven, doesn't go to money hell, goes to money purgatory, and it just sits there and waits. So maybe some of it went into gold. Gold had a little bit of a drop off, you can see here, right? But again, nothing major, right? 3%. That's a fairly normal kind of move for gold. So that's just a pullback, and then it came back immediately, right? It immediately came back to the upside. And by the way, that drop was on Thursday. Gold actually rose as everything else was crashing. So it is acting like a safety play. People are really liking gold. We didn't see anything in the reverse repos. None of these. Actually, I take that back. This might have spiked up on Friday. We won't get these numbers until Monday. So perhaps this did spike up. Sorry, I take that back. The dollar index, yeah, it spiked up, but this is not. When I say spiked up, I mean like, look at the relative value into how this chart has moved. We could look at the Z-scores, and I'll tell you, this is not an out of trend movement here for the dollar to move up. So again, it's just one of these situations. We're not seeing anything in the macro that looks concerning, that makes this look like a real macro crash. The only thing that does actually look like a real macro crash was oil. And, you know, I should have looked at my own indicator. I said it forever, you know, oil is our alpha. And what happened? We broke down out of our channel back last week, right? It broke down out of this channel last week, and I probably should have raised more of an eyebrow at that. I said, hey, you know, that is, you know, I said, hey, the only thing in the macro that looks suspicious is this guy right here of having broken down out of trend. And that's how we knew that the crash was coming in April. We said, hey, this is a breakout of the trend, and this is actually, right, this is bad news. And so we knew that something bad was about to happen. And sure enough, you know, we got the macro crash. So this one was a little bit more of a blip of a signal, right? This was harder to look at and say, hey, that's real, right? When you get a breakdown over here, and you somewhere right around this area, you're starting to say, yeah, this is a real breakdown, right? This isn't just a fake out breakdown, right? It was harder to say that here. Again, my suspicion is that this is all going to reverse at some point pretty quickly. Maybe Trump will get out there and start talking a little bit less bellicose about China and tariffs and whatnot. I don't know, but this will probably reverse at some point. But yeah, I mean, if obviously with the tariffs, the fear is that no one's going to be shipping anything, and since oil, you know, diesel, boats, ships, is, you know, since obviously all that runs on oil, oil tends to drop first. So yeah, we actually didn't get much signal here early on, which is kind of another reason why I think, hey, this is probably a limited macro crash. It's not. It's like a micro crash. It's not even a mini crash. We'll have to wait for next week to see how that plays out, right? I'm kind of putting, kind of saying a lot of stuff here, and maybe it'll end up being true, or maybe it won't. But my intuition, I'm gonna say like 80, 90%. This is just a liquidation wick. Maybe we'll see a slight bit more next week, but I think this is going to turn around at some point, relatively quickly. So let's take a look at the some of the other macro stuff. We supposedly got some civilian unemployment numbers, but I don't know where they are, right? Because so let's go to here. It says October 2025. We should have got the employment situation last week, and I'm not seeing those numbers. So I don't know what the hell is up with this chart or why they're not showing. Maybe this is spiking. If this is spiking, then I'm going to start to get a little bit more worried. I'll probably still think the bull market is still on. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this spikes as the bull market continues, and then at some point something breaks. That's a lot of times that's how things happen. People are like, "Oh my God, it's going to collapse," and then it goes up, so they all look stupid, and then it continues going up, and no one listens to them when it's time for the real crash. So yeah, I guess we can look at the Z scores on this guy. Anything special here? No. Crypto down, stocks down. Nah, everything looks fine here. Looks pretty normal. Liquidity situation. What's going on? These are slightly delayed numbers, so I'm not sure how much this matters. Nothing there to look at really. And then we'll close it off with the Monero hash rate and Monero transactions. So hash rate looks like it took a dip. Maybe this is Cubic coming in and out of the situation. I'm not quite sure there. And all of the transactions of all the coins, Litecoin, like we talked about, I don't believe them. Their transaction counts are not that high. Let's just go to Monero, get rid of all the. Why do we even have Dash? Oh my God, whatever Dash. Yeah, your transactions went to 40K. Sure it did. It's kind of funny, guys, because like I look at these transactions in a lot of ways. I look at Monero and I say, hey, this is actually probably what genuine usage looks like. And then we see what these other coins do, and it's like, yeah, that's what fakery looks like. And I know that's kind of like prescriptively, there's like a fallacy in there, right? Of like, I don't know, believing your own bullshit or whatever, getting high on your own supply. So you got to be careful not to take it too far. But I do kind of sometimes look at these other transaction counts and think, yeah, okay, guys, whatever. I don't believe you. Anyways, Monero transactions looking around 30,000 lately. 25 to 30. Yeah. So we've been centered around 25 for so long. Like every week, it's the same story. We were on the low side of that for a while. Now it looks like we're on the high side of that. Cool. Maybe we'll see more adoption. I mean, bull markets are going to tend to see a little bit more adoption. So it would make sense for us to see a little bit more, to see this number going up to cross that 30,000 threshold consistently. One could hope. But yeah, I haven't really checked the questions here, any of the YouTube or XMR chats.
Nicholas Van Sakerhagen tipped $1.53. Zcash pumping would actually be good for Monero, as when Zcash eventually dumps, the people who actually care for the tech are going to learn about Monero and shift to it. Potentially. I think at this moment it's obvious that this isn't a broader, as Body aptly pointed out, it's not really a broader like privacy like interest. It's mostly just Zcash like just pumping to the moon. I think it's benefited Monero a little bit, but not like that much. It's not like a pure privacy interest.
Yeah. Dash pumped a lot though too, right?
Yeah, there's another like Dash is another bullshit.
But it's just speculation. Like I don't see it as people being genuinely interested in privacy en masse suddenly. Like I'm sure there's some of that, but it's very obviously like Zcash thing is very obviously not like people just want to buy privacy suddenly. So
they're just trying to fabricate some kind of reality into existence. And
I mean, listen, like when you go to PorkFest, almost everybody accepts Monero at this point. Dash has been there forever, but in reality, it's been dying off. It's like, like the Dash stickers are like old on people's vending thing. Like people aren't running around. Like you had a few OGs that have Dash over there, but you don't see as much acceptance. Zcash, same thing. I never really saw it take off at PorkFest. I mean, maybe now next year, now that this thing pumped, sure, people will be like, yeah, I'll take some Zcash. But I think kind of PorkFest is like the great like the best like indicator for understanding like which things cryptos are actually used, and Monero has the most organic adoption there.
Yeah, that's very. It's an astute observation. Like, if and it's kind of one of these things like, oh, that's an anecdotal fallacy, bro. Like, no, it's not. I've said this a lot before, but it's you. There is statistical power in anecdotes if you assume that, hey, my experience is somewhere around the median, and for 87% of us, or 83%, I can't remember, 33. No, sorry, at least for sorry, at least for 67% of us, our experience is the median, right? What we see is actually what's a representation of some larger picture. It's a sample of the real population, or at least it's somewhere close to the sample of real population. And so you're like, hey, it's maybe not a hugely high power statistical inference, but it is still a valid statistical inference. And the simple fact is, the freedom community across the world doesn't use Zcash. None of them use fucking Zcash. But Monero is actually quite adopted in many places.
Exactly.
Well, that's all I got to say about that.
The cubic thing. Let me ask you something, buddy, because I still don't, I guess, understand this well enough. Now that we've seen what's happened, what is your overall take? Was ASICs part of the issue here? The fact that we are CPU mineable? Because I still see people kind of like putting that message out there that the cubic attack is an indication that one CPU, one vote is a failed experiment. ASICs are necessary. I don't. That my understanding is that that's not the case, right? This was an attack on the pools, and there was an incentive to pull miners into a pool by giving away a shitcoin. I get that that's a little harder to pull off if everybody's using ASICs, because they have more stake essentially into the system, so they don't want to see, the value of the network go down because they own a part of the network with their ASICs. But I fail to see that this means that one CPU, one vote is a failed experiment, and ASICs are the way to go. Curious what your take is there.
Yeah, so you're asking me if cubic happened because of CPUs?
I'm asking you, if the cubic attack is an indication that Monero's ASIC resistance is a flawed experiment.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's the people that say that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they need to stop talking. This is a problem. Like we could have 10x the hash power, and this still would have happened, or it still could have happened. Hell, we could have even, and maybe I need to think more about this, but we could have even had a massive amount of P2Pool hash power, and this still could have happened if hypothetically, depending on how much hash power that Cubic was able to put into, let's say, P2Pool. That might not quite be right. There's probably some like problems with that. But in general, no, this is nothing to do with CPUs. This is a proof of work problem. Like, this is a statistical proof of work problem that has been known about for literally over a decade. The first papers on this came out in 2013 about selfish mining. And if you want to bribe miners, if you want to bribe these miners to by overpaying them, then you're going to be able to collect hash power of a lot of different coins, of a lot of different ASICs. So it's kind of like the people that want to say, well, ASICs, are immune to this, or at least they're resistant to this. What you're saying is you're admitting that you have centralized hash power that's effectively proof of stake, where ASIC, the purchase of an ASIC, is the purchase of your stake. And that's literally what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is literally a proof of stake network. The stake is the ASIC. And so it's like, all right, like, but, and not only that, it's centralized, right? If Bitcoin or any of these other proof of work coins had a truly decentralized hashing network, then those hashers could point towards a malicious pool like Cubic because they're bribing them because they're being overpaid. This has absolutely nothing to do with CPUs. It has everything to do with the fact that Nakamoto consensus needs work, right? That there needs to be some kind of improvement on it. And I am like almost certain now at this point that information theoretically, it can be improved, specifically, if nothing else, because of uncle blocks. Uncle blocks are a unit of information, a bit of information that are not leveraged. And so we can probably do something better than 50%. And then also we have time at our disposal, right? Information theory, again, if we use a very, very rough version of time for the difficulty algorithm, and so these are two different things that we can leverage to improve Nakamoto consensus, and we can do it probably in a way that doesn't sacrifice, doesn't have like critical trade-offs that make the network, that give us problems in other places. So, yeah, this is not a CPU problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the misinformation campaign or propaganda campaign that's happening against Monero, right? And I'm seeing it come. It's disappointing seeing it come from some intelligent people like Uri Bednar, who I have the utmost respect for. Hoping to get him on the show next week, but he like concluded that he put out a tweet like listing what he likes about Monero, what he likes about Zcash. And like what he doesn't like it about Monero and Zcash, vice versa. And like, on his list was the fact that, from Monero, we learned that you can't be ASIC resistant. I'm like, what? Like, come on, man. So it's becoming part of like the anti-Monero propaganda, right? So not only is Zcash, quote unquote, more private than Monero, but that it has ASICs and ASICs are essential. And like these things, a protocol like this can't achieve global adoption if going the route that Monero is going, which I think it's unfortunate to see that misinformation going out there, but that was all part of the cubic attack. That is part of the attack.
They gleefully ignore the fact that Zcash has via BTC, which has had well over 50% of the hash rate for years.
Right. Like
and maybe
that's
they
not
aren't
a problem.
an adversary like Cubic is, but it does almost seem like this Cubic attack is coordinated in such a way that it could then be used as propaganda against Monero for,
exactly.
Almost it does seem like it's against its, not ASICs, but proof of work in a way.
Yeah.
And it's being used to show people Zcash, which is ironic because we look at Zcash and you look at the distribution of blocks, and it's terrible. It's awful. BTC gets 70% of the blocks, yet nobody seems to care.
Right.
I don't know if I'm still. Yeah, I am.
I think that's one good point to make too, right? Like for those who are looking at Monero Zcash and they're like, oh, but it just seems like Zcash is, tech is better. It's truly its privacy is everything is truly encrypted. Doesn't rely on ring signatures. Even full chain membership proofs won't be truly encrypted. I mean, these are right. Even if you're going to see it that way, the big thing to realize is there's so much more to Monero than just the privacy aspect, right? Number one, it's private by default, which Zcash is not. I don't know if they ever will be, but it's not. I doubt they ever will be because that's how they're getting away with integrating with centralized exchanges and whatnot. But there's all these other aspects, right, that we're ignoring. Like it's not even being discussed much out there when we're talking about Zcash Monero. The fact that Monero is ASIC resistant and it's constantly working towards maintaining that, right? It's having great success. Yes, we had Cubic, but it's one CPU, one vote. Major difference between Monero and Zcash, Monero and Bitcoin. It's has the dynamic blocks. Zcash does not have that. It has the tail emission. It has its network level privacy. There are all these other differences that aren't even being considered when you look at these two projects. That should be something that's very much highlighted. So those that are like a little noobish and looking at these things and are like, oh, Zcash just seems better. They're not getting the full picture, not realizing these are ultimately two very different projects, and Monero has there's a lot of other aspects to it that make it unstoppable that need to be considered, and that Zcash just doesn't have.
There's another facet to this whole like social thing happening. I mean, it's mostly bots, but there's real people out there too as well, and some of them even maybe kind of genuine. A few. The thing is that like I was fine to sort of be these like, Zcash is out there and it's like, I respect the tech and like they're doing some good work, and a lot of ZK, their snarks have been integrated into other things, and okay, like, I can be fine with that and be like, yeah, they're not very good money, but okay, sure, whatever. I'm not going to hate on them too much. I'm going to offer the technical criticisms and be like, well, this is why I don't think it's a good money. With what I've seen lately, it's like, all right, like they're like, oh, Monero people are so toxic. It's like they're complaining about the toxicity, and we're like, wait, no, but we were just giving like some technical pushback. So if you guys want to be toxic, then like we can go to war. That's fine. Like we'll just
Yeah,
expose
dude,
how
the
retarded y'all are.
whole
Like
I
I'm
am
not
going
gonna
to
go
start
easy on
tone
you anymore.
policing the tone policing because it's just so annoying, and it's like some people are just incessant on complaining about like things that the Zcash community themselves have done before. Like they accuse Monero of something which Zcash community has done too, but they both do the same shit. This is how it is. This is how the internet works, and people complaining about this, it's so fucking retarded, and it's
Yeah,
so
put on your
annoying.
big boy pants, please.
It's like just accept this is the way it is. And yeah, would it be nice if people were maybe more like technical and more reasoned in their responses? Sure, perhaps, but this is the way it is. Both communities do the same thing, and complaining about one in particular does absolutely nothing. It just makes you look pathetic, and
It
it's really
does,
annoying.
and they're actually the reality is, yeah. We have some people in Monero that act that way, and that have been acting that way all the time. But like most of the Monero community is sitting here like, we'll give pushback on Zcash and be like, well, hey, no, here's why I don't like it, and they're like clutching at their pearls, Zcash, like, oh my god, how could you say such terrible things about us? And like, bro, like, and then they say these horrible things about Monero, and then they start lying. Like real people, like some of these guys are real people, and they're putting out real lies, and some of them actually have a technically sounding like orientation to the things that they're saying, and they're straight up fucking lies. And they're even worse because they sound smart. They say things that sound like technically correct, mathematically
Yeah,
intelligent,
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so it's like, and then you see them lie about even basic stuff, and you're like, wait, no, like you're if you're lying about basic stuff, then none of your technical jargon can be trusted. And so it's like, all right, listen, guys, if that's how you want to be, then I'm going to go hard against y'all. I'm going to start pointing you out. And I'm going to start like with force, showing like it. How can you put revealing the social bullshit that you're engaged in, right? Because in a lot of cases, it's like at that point, I'm not here to show. I'm not here to even argue about Monero or Zcash. I'm here to show who you are, right? What are you doing? You pretended to be someone, and now you're not, right? I'm here to expose what you're actually doing. And if that's how y'all want to be, then you're going to lose this battle. Like I 100% guarantee it. Like we're experienced, we have more experience than you do at this point. Like, don't go that way. Just keep it civil, guys. Or if you want to be assholes, then we can be bigger assholes than you.